So I keep looking through eBay's sold listings just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and for a few seconds I thought I might have missed something when I saw this. It's a 69 Speedmaster 145022. We'll call it a pre-moon watch with an 861 caliber, and $5,000 it sold for, and that could be inexpensive if it's the right watch, but of course it's got a Mark II dial. Now, Mark II dials will fit straight into a moonwatch case like this without any modification. The dial feet, of course, are for an 861, so it just drops straight in. What makes it different is that the dial is flat, completely flat, and apart from the indentations for the subdials, and so there's no step which should be seen on a 69. So a standard Mark II, which looks like this, has the flat dial, and a standard 69 like this has a step all the way around it, sort of in a circle. Look 2/3 up the plots and you'll see it. So going back to this watch, it's got a Mark II dial, 2 flat, so even if somebody came up with the magical solution of wiping away the Mark II, although it's a professional dial, it's the wrong shape. It's not going to work. So moving on, leave the dial out. What about the bezel? Well, the bezel's a dot next to 90 with tall tachometer letters. I like this bezel. It's a very good bezel. Quite a lot of them are damaged, and bearing in mind the rest of the watch is quite banged up and scraped and polished, the bezel's surprisingly good. It's possible somebody bought this watch because they like the bezel. If we look at the case, it's very clear the case has suffered over the years. You look along the top of the lugs for the lines, the delineation between the two facets. They're rubbed and worn and rolled over, and so that's not good. That's not good at all. If we look at the case back is not as bad as some I've seen, and so I can accept that. Looking at the sides of the case, it's very difficult because they don't show the non-pusher side, but they do show the pusher side. While we're on the subject of the pusher side, you can see those pushers have got bad marks in them, and possibly from being removed with pliers, which is Omega's recommended removal method. But obviously they expect you to throw those pushers away and fit service pushers. Look also at the crown. It's the wrong size. You can clearly see there's too much space between the crown guards and the crown, and as a result it's the wrong crown. Turning the watch over and opening it up, inside the case back we can clearly see the reference, and then as we come out we see the ring around the case back is marked with either sort of dirty old gasket, but down the bottom here I think that's corrosion, possibly very light corrosion. What that means is I'm going to look at the lip of the case just to check there isn't anything there. So as we go to look at that, we can see there's no case gasket. that's missing. And then we also look further into the movement and we see that the silver colored parts are corroded. The screws have a certain amount of marks on them, but you know, I kind of expect that, and I've seen much worse. I'd almost rather buy it like this than with badly chewed up screws, because that would indicate that lots of parts have been, you know, fiddled with. Can't see the movement number. The movement number is not really in focus. The one thing I would say is that the movement number looks to me like 30 million, 30, quite close to a Mark II, and sometimes people just lift the entire contents of a Mark II case and put it into an asymmetric case, which is what I did with this watch. In the case of the watch we're looking at, I can't tell. The only way to tell would be to get an extract from the museum. The next thing to look at is the bracelet, because the bracelet probably has a bit of value here. It's a 1039 from 1969, first quarter, and we haven't really got the photos to properly assess it, so I sort of zeroed in with what I've got. They sell for about anywhere between $1,800 to $2,500 if they're in good condition and proper length with the end links. So there's value here, and that might explain some of the attraction of this watch. I did have a quick trawl around to see if we couldn't find a dial that would go in this watch, but honestly, no. It's very hard to find. There's a couple of Speedmaster breakers who occasionally put things up on eBay. None of them had anything suitable. There's some really bad dials. I'm just showing a few here. They're not worth having. I mean, they're cheap enough, I suppose, that you could put it in, but you'd still, you know, after the service and everything, you're still going to end up with a watch that might have cost you in excess of $6,000, and the bracelet might be quite loose. So in summary, I wouldn't have, and in fact didn't buy it. The sting in the tail for this project is that on January the 10th, the same seller sold the same watch for $4,000. What happened there? Who knows? It's just one of those eBay stories. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, listening to me share my thinking on things, and always happy to read the comments. Sometimes I take a while to get back to them. This is just my hobby, but I do love talking about Speedmasters, and if you've got anything you want me to talk about, put it up in the comments or send me an email to my Speedmaster address, which is on the website.